This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Election Day in America. Christine Leahy joining me as always. Get out there and vote. We voted no on Proposition F yesterday, the fade pattern.
I didn't see that one on the ballot today.
Yeah, it wasn't. I tried to get it on the ballot. California wouldn't allow it on the ballot. I want to start with this today. So, as the father of kids, I not only have kids, but I hang out with people with kids. And that's what happens when you're a parent. You start being friends with people who have kids. Like when you're young, you're like 20-year-old guy, right? You have friends with people who share sort of your lifestyle. A party guy hangs out with party guy. Movie guy hangs out with movie guy. Workout guy hangs out with workout guy. Then you get to be 30 and you have kids, and 40, and you start hanging out with people who have kids. Because your kids start doing stuff. Little league practice, soccer practice, whatever your kids do, right? And here's what I've noticed through the years about aggressive kids. Aggressive kids are harder to parent because no parent wants to yell at their kids all day. They don't. No mom wants to be screaming at their son all day. No dad wants to be screaming at his daughter or son all day. So when a kid's aggressive, he just naturally gets away with more. And that is what we have with the Seattle Seahawks, who again last night on Monday Night Football alone, the third time, proved they're the hardest team in the NFL to officiate because they're hyper-aggressive. That's what they are. They're the hyper-aggressive kid, and the parents / the officials are struggling with them. I mean, how many times are we going to see Seattle just on Monday Night Football get officiating breaks? The Fail Mary against Green Bay. Last year, the batted ball in the end zone, illegal against Detroit. Last night, the field goal snafu, Richard Sherman, not called for unsportsmanlike conduct or roughing the kicker. Even earlier this year, Seattle with Julio Jones in Atlanta, incredibly difficult to officiate. Listen, here's what Pete Carroll does, and this is what he did at USC. They were often heavily penalized at USC. But they were so hyper-aggressive to the point where the NCAA put them on probation that a lot of times at USC and Seattle, refs kind of put their hands in the air. I mean, Pete Carroll in Seattle, Adderall busts, practice violations, often his teams incur a lot of penalties. At USC, NCAA violations. Pete's teams are a little reckless. Pete's teams are a little out of control. But it is a culture that Pete creates. High velocity, big emotion, difficult to officiate. And you saw it again last night. You saw it against Atlanta earlier this year. You saw it against Green Bay Hail Mary. You saw it against the Detroit Lions. Years and years ago, Jerry Sloan was a good player in the NBA. He was a tough guy. I think Jerry Sloan mostly played for the Chicago Bulls. And then he coached the Utah Jazz with John Stockton and Karl Malone. Well, Jerry Sloan's teams mirrored Jerry Sloan. Very good on defense, very aggressive, very tough, and very physical. At home, because again, like the parent with the aggressive kid, NBA refs in Salt Lake City don't want to be blowing the whistle 70 times. So during the Jerry Sloan era, Utah never won a title, but they had the best home record. They had the best home record. Because officials and parents don't want to be blowing the whistle. And at home, especially with intimidating crowds in Utah or Seattle, you get away with it. Those Utah teams had the best record during Sloan's reign. They're the best team. They don't win any titles. So I think this is part of the genius of Pete Carroll. I remember there's a story out there that when Pete was part of the New England Patriots staff, right? When they were going on the road and the jet was turning and flying into the airport, Pete would be on the back of the plane with a cart and he'd be surfing down the aisle. That's Pete. That's crazy Pete. And it works for him. What I saw last night, I'm going to give you a minute of tape. There was a play at the end of the half, and this is classic Seahawks. The referees are lost. It throws the game into turmoil. It forces the Buffalo Bills to react as Seattle is proactive, as Richard Sherman blows up a play. We edited it down. It's wildly confusing. Seattle got away with it once again on Monday night at home. Here's the play. Here's the moment.
Oh, boy, are they offside. Whoa. They went through and attempted the kick, and now Carpenter down grabbing his knee.
Prior to the snap, offside, number 25, defense, unabated to the kicker. It's a 5-yard penalty. Trainers came onto the field to attend to kicker number 2. Number 2 will have to leave the game.
My goodness. Which means they can't try the field goal.
How can they not make this call? We've had plenty of time to look at it. The kicker got roughed. He got hurt. That's the right call to make.
Well, here's what Rex Ryan is saying now. Spike the ball fast. That will count as Carpenter being off for a play, and then they'll try the field goal. So now here's Carpenter to bring an end to a wild first half. And fittingly, it is good.
Prior to the snap, delay of game.
Oh, my goodness.
Offense, 5-yard penalty. Be 1 second on the clock.
This is unbelievable.
The official didn't back away from the football till there was 5 seconds left on the play clock. Now it's a 54-yard try. And a knuckle ball that is no good. Rex Ryan looked like he couldn't decide whether he wanted to give the official an earful on the way off or just walk off. And he decided restraint was the better way to go.
Utter confusion caused by Pete Carroll's almost out of control, hyper-aggressive culture. I watched it at USC for years. It works for him. I've watched it at Seattle. They're the hardest team in the National Football League to officiate. Now, you either understand that or you think the NFL just wants Seattle to win a bunch of games, which doesn't make any sense because geographically, they're the most isolated team in the NFL. They're not New York. They're not L.A. They're not Chicago. They're not Dallas. They're not a glamorous city. They're not a massive city. Of all the teams in the NFL, they're not even a traditional powerhouse like a Green Bay. You either think the NFL's helping Seattle win games, they're for Pete Carroll, or you come to the conclusion, which I have watching Pete's teams, this is the culture he creates. They are maddeningly difficult to officiate. They're the aggressive kid the parent doesn't want to yell at all the time. So the kid gets away with more. And that's what they've done. And that's what they do. So it's good to have you in today. We are absolutely jammed today. We are absolutely packed. So last night, I'll shift gears here. So last night, the Warriors, the roller coaster, the Warriors set an NBA single game record. They had 13 3-pointers. And you're going to hear every sportscaster in America tell you, oh, what a night, the Warriors. But it's time for Chef Colin sprinkling in the truth this morning. I'm going to sprinkle in the truth this morning. You can look at all those 3-pointers. What's Chef Colin sprinkling? Looks like trout there, salmon. Did you notice the free throws by the Warriors? They shot 12 and were out-rebounded again. Golden State now is 20th in three-point percentage. That's kind of alarmingly low, right? But the problem with all these three-pointers, and last night, they shot 35, they don't create free throws. So think of all these brilliantly skilled offensive players. Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, 12 free throws. The less talented Pelicans almost got to 30. So, do you know where LeBron's team is in shooting free throws? Oh, they're 7th. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the NBA this year. And get ready for it. People are talking about rigged elections. Wait until you hear the rigged NBA final. Golden State's going to get to the final against Cleveland. And LeBron's team is going to shoot more free throws in every single game. Why? Because Golden State was finesse last year. They've become even more finesse. 35, 43s every game. Let Chef Colin sprinkle the truth on your salmon, on your trout, or whatever you're cooking. That this offense is going to be spectacular, and they're going to set all sorts of records, and they're going to have amazing nights. But even last night, setting a record at home, they didn't blow out the Pelicans, the lousy Pelicans. They're not physical. They do not get to the free throw line, and they get out-rebounded generally every night. And they're going to face Cleveland in that final, and Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love and LeBron James are going to be sitting at the free throw line, hopefully standing. 12 free throws last night. There's your sprinkling of the truth. Everybody's paying attention to the threes. You don't get free throws shooting 24-footers falling away. So I think those free throw numbers are far more alarming than the three-point numbers. And I said it against the San Antonio Spurs. Against physical teams, they're a finesse team that got better shooting threes. They were already great at that. Let me throw this out, too. Keep your eye, Christine, on Klay Thompson's three-point percentage this year. I just want everybody to keep your eye on it. Now, it's way too early. But we'll examine this every couple of weeks. Klay Thompson used to shoot three-pointers when it was just he and Curry, and they were good three-pointers. But does anybody consider this a possibility? That with now Durant and Steph and Klay, that Klay will on occasion feel forced to take threes and not as good a three? Is that before it was different. He could shoot 7 a night and feel good about it. Now he's not getting the opportunity. His numbers could potentially plummet points per game average. Don't kid yourself. It matters. That stuff matters come contract time. Players are aware of it. Just keep your eye on Klay Thompson's three-point shooting percentage. I don't know for sure, but is it possible he feels a little pinched and will take worse or poorer three-point shots? Just throwing it out there. I'm saying it's right. I'm just saying it's something to think about.
Hey, sports fans, football season is here, and it's time to get in on the action. MyBookie.lv, an industry-leading website, is offering a 50% bonus when you join and deposit today. Are you sick and tired of getting the runaround when you ask for a payout? Come join MyBookie.lv. With decades of expertise, no hassle payouts, and no fine print, you'll experience the greatest customer service in the business, guaranteed. Did the game already start? Don't sweat it. MyBookie offers in-game live action on all your favorite sporting events. Call 844-900-2387 or visit us online at mybookie.lv to open an account and claim your 50% bonus. Pull out your smartphone to sign up with our user-friendly mobile site for adrenaline on demand. What are you waiting for? Get in the game. Call now to claim your 50% bonus before it's gone. That's 844-900-2387 or go online to mybookie.lv to open an account and start winning today. Only the biggest, only the best, only at mybookie.lv. Sign up today.
So I'm watching the game last night. I thought it was a very, very entertaining game. Very, very entertaining game. I thought the Sunday night game, Raiders-Denver, was a very, very entertaining game. You know, one of the things I think I owe you, the listeners, or the viewers here on FS1, is the straight, skinny, the truth. Don't bring in agendas. Every day is a new day and a new topic. You always talk about Brady. He's the best quarterback of all time. It would be ridiculous not to talk about him all the time. You always talk about LeBron, best basketball player in a decade. It would be asinine to do this for a living and not talk about him all the time. But one of the things I have seen now, and this is the classic media overreaction, they come into weeks with agendas, is the NFL now is no good and nobody's watching it, and the league is terrible, and it's falling apart, and wrong. The ratings are triple virtually every other league to quadruple. The Super Bowl will double the Cubs World Series. So this morning, and I heard this all the first 4 months, the first 4 weeks of the season. College football is way better. College football is amazing. College football every week, go look at the top 10 teams. 8 of their games are absolute blowouts done by the middle of the second quarter. Alabama hasn't lost in the SEC in 20 games. Is that what you really want? Michigan wins by 50. Washington wins by 40. Clemson wins by 30. Louisville scores 7 touchdowns from one player. Is that what you want? Here's a prime example of a lot of people in the media coming in with an agenda and just not doing actual homework. There's 32 NFL teams. We're halfway through the season now. Okay, we're halfway through the season. 32 NFL teams. 2 teams dead. Not even on life support. Dead. Cleveland, 0-9. San Francisco, 1-7. Dead. 2 other teams need to win this weekend. Jacksonville and Chicago. But 28 of 32 teams, halfway through, still in the mix. And in fact, there are entire divisions. The AFC West, Oakland, Kansas City, Denver, San Diego. They all look like playoff teams based on the weekend. The NFC East, Dallas, New York, Washington, Philadelphia. They all feel like they still have a shot to make the playoffs. Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa, Carolina. I think Carolina's the best team in that division. Even better than Atlanta, and I think they'll prove it by the end of the year. I really do. 28 of the 32 teams, halfway through the season, still viable. Let's add some context to this. Let's go halfway through last year's NBA season. Philadelphia was 5-38. The Lakers were 9-34. Brooklyn was 11-31. New Orleans was 14-27. Phoenix was 13-30. The T-Wolves were 13-30. And Sacramento stunk. 7 teams, even before the halfway mark, the third mark of the season, done. And about 4 others close to that. Let's go to Major League Baseball. Let's go to their All-Star break this year. 11 of the 30 teams in baseball this year, a great baseball season, 11 of the 30, All-Star break, out of it. Out of it. Let's go to college football right now. You basically have 5 teams with a chance to win the national championship. That's it. Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington. Outside shot to Louisville. Maybe 6. There's 120 teams. 6? That's it. So we're 10 games into the current NBA season. We're 10 games. The Sixers are already 0-6. The Wizards are awful 1-5. New Orleans 1-7. Mavs 1-5. Phoenix 2-5. 9 teams have won a third or fewer of their games. We're 10 games into the season. We're not even a quarter. We're not even a fifth. We're not even a 7th. We're like an 8th, a 9th into the season. And like 7 teams, you're like, oh, they're done. They're done. So add some context to it. Virtually every weekend in the NFL, the last 2 weekends, 8 of the games in both weekends, not combined, were one-possession football games. And even the games this weekend, Denver-Oakland, was wildly entertaining. That was a fun game to watch. It's the biggest game for the Raiders in a decade. It was fun to watch, like the Raiders or not. That game last night, yeah, was the officiating at the end of the first half a mess? That was a really entertaining football game last night. That was a wildly entertaining television product. So let's add some context instead of just, it's a bad league. I don't like the way it's officiated. For the record, the ratings are 15% off record highs, and they'll bounce back if one of the candidates wins tonight. Give it about 2 weeks, and if one of the candidates wins, and one of the polarizing candidates, I think you know who I'm talking about, disappears, and the media stops covering every day, most of those ratings will bounce back. Hi, everybody. Perky Jerky came out with a bunch of new flavors that I think you should try. Jammin' Jamaican, Brewmaster's Pale Ale, and Barbecue with Soul, and that's S-E-O-U-L because it tastes like traditional Korean barbecue. What I love about Perky Jerky, the flavors pop. They're bold, and the jerky, you know this, really tender. For me, Brewmaster Pale Ale, fantastic. I mean, think about it. If beer and jerky go hand in hand, why not put the beer and the jerky in one? It's like a happy hour in a bag. To get your hands on this new flavor, hop on over to the Home Depot. Or if you'd rather shop online, go to perkyjerky.com. And don't forget to put the code in Colin. Also, if you love it, go to Twitter and say you love it, at Perky Jerky. Okay, so last night, that Seahawk game, this morning I tried to explain it, and it was such a mess that we literally edited it down to a 1:05 piece of video. Now, let me say this. I don't like people who say elections are rigged if they lose, either side, and I don't like coaches who blame refs. Okay, let me just say this to you, Buffalo. You had a 40-play advantage and you lost. You had 82 plays, Seattle had 42, and you trailed by 6 late. You had 30 first downs, Seattle had fewer than 20. You had the football 40 minutes, over 2 times as long as Seattle did. I don't want you to blame the end of the half. So here's what happened at the end of the half, and then I'll let you hear what Rex Ryan said about it. Roll the tape.
Oh, boy, are they offside. Ugh. They went through and attempted the kick, and now Carpenter down grabbing his knee.
Prior to the snap, offside, number 25, defense, unabated to the kicker. It's a 5-yard penalty. Trainers came onto the field to attend to kicker number 2. Number 2 will have to leave the game.
My goodness. Which means they can't try the field goal.
How can they not make this call? We've had plenty of time to look at it. The kicker got roughed. He got hurt. That's the right call to make.
Well, here's what Rex Ryan is saying now. Spike the ball fast. That will count as Carpenter being off for a play, and then they'll try the field goal. So now here's Carpenter to bring an end to a wild first half. And fittingly, it is good.
Prior to the snap, delay of game.
Oh, my goodness.
Offense, 5-yard penalty. Be 1 second on the clock.
This is unbelievable.
The official didn't back away from the football till there was 5 seconds left on the play clock. Now it's a 54-yard try. And a knuckle ball that is no good. Rex Ryan looked like he couldn't decide whether he wanted to give the official an earful on the way off or just walk off. He decided restraint was the better way to go.
Give Sean McDonough credit. That was a wildly confusing 7 minutes of live American television. I thought Sean McDonough and John Gruden did a great job with it. I thought it was an incredibly entertaining game. But here's what Rex Ryan said after the frustrating loss.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
What was the explanation you were given by officials?
It doesn't matter. It was wrong. I mean, it's clear what happened. The guy roughed our kicker. Jumps outside, roughs our kicker, and then because we had to go out and attend to him, and it wasn't called roughing the kicker, then we had to spike the ball so we can come back in and kick. And then, of course, they got to put the K ball out there, and they don't reset the clock. So, from an officiating standpoint, I think he can do a little better than that.
They can. They butchered it. But again, you got to make your own luck sometimes. You had a 40-play advantage, and you trailed by 6. You had the football twice as long, and you trailed by 6. You got to make your own luck. I mean, at some point, it was a bad call, but, this is kind of my Rex thing. You can't dominate a game like that. Buffalo dominated large chunks of that game, and they trailed by a touchdown late. Can't sit around and wait for refs to perfectly officiate games. They don't. It's clear. Here was Richard Sherman, by the way, explaining his part of the play.
I tried to block the kick. I went for the ball. The holder still had it, so I didn't hear no whistle. They say play to the blow of the whistle, so I went and tried to block the kick. And I got it. I think I got a piece of it, and then the kicker somehow kept going. I assumed he was going to stop when he saw me going for the ball, but he didn't.
So Sherman was offsides and knew he was offsides, but he didn't want to give Buffalo a free kick. So Sherman was, oh, crap, I'm offsides. Well, I'm going to go now block it so you don't get a free kick and it's made and it would count. So Richard Sherman's play, once he was offside, Richard's like, well, I'm going to go block it now. I'm not going to give you. You know how sometimes you're offside, it's a free play for the offense, and the defense goes lax, and you have a big play? So Richard Sherman's like, hey, once I'm offside, I'm going for the block. And once he went for the block, he got a piece of the ball. And the feeling is if you get a piece of the ball, it's not a penalty. It's just an offsides. It was confusing, I admit.
Catch the Herd from noon to 3 Eastern on iHeartRadio and FS1.
It's the Herd Hierarchy NFL Power Ranking Top 10. You know, as I say, the top 4 teams, I believe, are the only ones that I think can win the Super Bowl. But here are the top 10 teams, in my opinion, in the NFL right now.
Herd Hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Okay, you're going to think I'm crazy. But just look at the data on the Minnesota Vikings. They're going through a rough spot. but they have the fewest giveaways in the league and the fewest big plays allowed this year. Okay, this is still a really good defense. They've allowed the lowest opponent passer rating in blitz situations. They're in a rough spot. I stayed away from them this week in my Blazing 5. But there are stats that tell you when they get their offensive line settled, they're still an elite team. Number 10.
Number 9.
Listen, Denver's going to struggle playing from behind, but they also play in a really good division. You could put this team in other divisions, and they could be vying for first place. They are still number 1 in opponent yards per play. Okay, what does that mean? They're the toughest team in the league to get yards on. That is a top 10 team in the NFL.
Number 8.
Washington's the league's most underrated team. You know, I'm starting to watch Kirk Cousins, and listen, only 9% of their drives this year have resulted in 3 and out. That's better than New England. That's the best in the league. Yards per play, they're second. This offense under Kirk Cousins back-to-back years is really, really productive. They feel like a borderline playoff team to me. Redskins 8.
Number 7.
Kansas City's dull, and they're not explosive, but they're winning. They've won 17 of their last 20 games, and their losses, 2 of them were at New England and at Pittsburgh. They continue to win despite all sorts of injury problems. Macklin, Ware, Charles, Alex Smith, all hurt. Kansas City, number 7.
Number 6.
Atlanta is the over-the-top team. You play Atlanta, you're going to be in for a shootout. Okay, Matt Ryan leads the NFL. Passing yards, touchdowns. They're number 1 in yards per play. Kind of the opposite of Denver. They're really the opposite of Denver, but they're fun to watch. And listen, they're going to be in every game they play. Don't forget, they went to Oakland and beat the Raiders.
Number 5.
This team I like more than everybody else. I like Carolina. Okay, I know this. Physically, they can match up with anybody. And remember, Cam has not had a turnover in the last 2 games. They've won both. In Cam's career, when he doesn't turn the ball over, he's won almost 80% of his games. And they're also second in the NFL at forcing 3-and-out drives. I love their front 7 defensively. I told you last week, and I believe this to be true, Carolina is the one team in the league that this point forward is going to change the perception of what you think about them. Carolina 5.
Number 4.
These teams, I think, can win the Super Bowl, and right now the Raiders are one of them. Okay, it's crazy, right? But they're the first team to score over 30 points against Denver since 2015. They are number 2 in the NFL in over-the-top plays. I think they have a very, very elite offensive line. They may have the deepest receiving core in the NFL and an exciting Derek Carr at quarterback who looks like a young Aaron Rodgers. I've got the Raiders at 4.
Number 3.
Seattle can be ugly, but again, Russell Wilson not at full strength. They allow only 16 points a game. That's 3rd best in the league. They're number 3 in sacks. It's a team. Jimmy Graham was remarkable last night. It is a team that's got its flaws. But if you're talking about playmakers, they've got them. And when Russell Wilson, with an excellent veteran coach, Pete Carroll, gets healthy, I think they're a top 3 team in the league.
Number 2.
Dallas Cowboys. Now, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL this year based on games played through Week 9. But they're number 1 in rushing, and they're number 1 in time and possession. And they have the best unit in the NFL. That offensive line, of all the units, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, running back, skill play, that offensive line's the best in the league. It's the best unit, period, in the league. And anybody connected to it is elite. They are on 4th down this year, 7 for 7. That's some sort of record, I'm sure. I don't have the guy to look it up, but that's got to be a record. They're literally perfect, 7 for 7 on 4th down.
Number 1.
The New England Patriots, 14-8 off buys. Here they come off a bye. In November, last 17 games, they're 14-3. Brady's having a remarkable year. They've made some interesting defensive moves, but I like them on the back end of their defense. I like their offensive line. I think they have the 2nd best receiving core in the league to Oakland. And I think New England's the best coach, best quarterback combination in the National Football League. They're number one.
All 3 hours of The Herd are always streaming on the Herd channel on the iHeartRadio app.
Let's bring on Nick Wright. Let's bring him on. So first of all, I want to ask you the fourth question first.
Sure.
I owe you $1,000.
You owe me, if we're going to be specific, $1,200.
Well, why do I owe you that?
Let's trace back to 1 week ago, almost exactly this time, right after the segment. You're getting ready to do Hunt Your Lunch. You say to Goulet, hey, there's one line I've seen. Make sure it's not on Hunt Your Lunch. Line of the year, bet of the year. Broncos, what do you think they are against the Raiders? They're a pick'em. They're a better team. Oh, my God, bet of the year. Guess who made it the bet of the year?
You.
This guy. Guess who now is down $1,200? This guy. Guess for whom $1,200 is a rounding error? That guy. So I feel like there is some money owed at this point.
What do you think about that, John?
Valid point.
Well, valid point.
I had that one too, but not for $1,200.
Using your reasoning, I would owe America, everybody that listens, $1,200.
Yes.
Okay, correct. However, before you do the picks on the air, you always give a preamble of, don't bet what you can't afford and this whole thing.
Right.
You looked me in my eye, man to man, knowing my issues, said bet of the year. That was your wink and a nod of put the house on it. Nikki, go do it.
God, I feel terrible.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
Okay, so an unbelievable stat.
This will blow your mind. It's gambling as well, but Patriots, Cowboys, they've played 18 games this year. The two of them. 14, 1, and 1 against the spread. Think about that for a moment. The Cowboys, week one of the season, they were 1-point dogs. They lost by 1. Since then, they have covered 7 consecutive weeks. So the Cowboys, if you bet them every week, you've never lost. The Patriots, they failed to cover the 16-0 loss, the final game without Brady. Every other game they've covered. So I don't know what this means, but that's jarring.
Yeah.
Because even great teams usually finish like 10-6 against the spread. So the fact that Vegas hasn't caught up to these teams, people like to bet the Cowboys. They like to bet the Patriots. They're still covering every single week.
So Vegas is getting clobbered by Dallas. Has to be.
14, 1-1. So the question that I have is, like, if that's not even more evidence that there's 2 teams and then everybody else.
No.
I don't know what is.
Listen, I put in my hierarchy today, I put Seattle third.
Yeah?
The gap between Seattle's consistency on offense and Dallas and New England,
it's remarkable.
It's a different game.
So like in the NFC, I think you had Seattle. I agree with you. Carolina's better than their record suggests.
Yeah.
They're a little dangerous if they get right.
Yeah.
But still, and in the AFC, what is it? The Raiders and the Chiefs but the gap between them and the Patriots, it's jarring. It typically in the NFL, you don't have 2 teams that just look like, all right, they're just better than everybody. And right now it looks like that.
It's funny, Nick Wright joining us, is that generally drama's great for us, but I've always felt it was overrated. The Cubs had the best record. The Cubs were favored in every series, and the Cubs basically tripled most World Series ratings in the last decade. That this idea that we want parity is a complete myth. That New England and Dallas have distanced themselves from the league, and if neither team lost,
it'd be awesome.
It would break every Super Bowl record. Well, that we're over inclined to gravitate toward people love underdogs and people. No, they don't. People want superpowers. We all wanted to be Spider-Man.
Well, and because it's football, even if you have an overpowering team, because it's 1-game samples, they could lose. Like, even if the Patriots are 15-1,
right,
it's not like you're not going to watch the AFC Championship game because they can still get knocked off. But, yeah, I mean, I think a Patriots-Cowboys Super Bowl, why do people play the lottery? They want to be rich. Right. They want to be powerful. Yeah, of course.
We're jealous of power.
Yeah.
We're not turned off by it. All right, so you watched the entire Warriors game last night.
Total nerd. I have 2 TVs in my bedroom. Small TV, the Seahawks game. Big. I'm locked in. I'm watching every second of this Warriors season. I got to know what's going on.
Oh, by the way, Klay Thompson.
Well, hold on. Before we get to Klay, here is the headline from yesterday is a really cool one, right? Steph, Friday in Los Angeles, first time in 157 games, he doesn't hit a three. Breaks his record streak. He responds to that by hitting more threes than anyone has ever hit in a game. That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's like a reminder of how great he really is when he's on fire. But that game was also a reminder that this team hasn't found themselves yet. Here are some facts. The Pelicans have not won yet. This game was in Oakland. The Warriors at one point were up 21 points. The Pelicans have one good player, Anthony Davis. Their other good players injured. Steph, with 4 minutes left in the game, a game in Oakland that the Warriors had led by 21, with 4 minutes left, Steph had hit 10 of those 13 threes, and it was a 4-point game. Like, take a deep breath on that. Steph was playing out of his mind. You're playing a terrible team. You had a 20-point lead, and with 4 minutes left, it's a 2-possession game. That's problematic. And it's because Clay doesn't know his position on the team anymore. And the underrated quality since Mark Jackson's last year in Golden State up until last year, those 3 seasons, first in defense, second in defense, second in defense. That was a great defensive team. I was at that game Friday night. Tariq Black and Julius Randle are dominating them on the inside. Like, their total lack of rim protection, plus I saw Draymond, who's an okay three-point shooter, turn down open looks yesterday because it's not, last year it was pass, whoever's open, shoot it. Now I think there's more of a, well, wait, has Kevin gotten his shots? Like, and I'm not saying they won't figure it out, and people keep tweeting to me, well, what about the first year of LeBron in Miami? I get that. I think they started 8-9 or whatever, 9-8. But let's also remember that team didn't win the title. It's not like, oh, they figured it out. They didn't win the title. And if this team doesn't win the title, it's a total disaster. And so I watched that game. It reminded me how deadly Steph is. And God, he is fun to watch. Even though I'm no Warriors fan, Steph on fire is theater. But it also showed some issues that they have.
So Boston's Isaiah Thomas says we're not very good. The Knicks are already a mess. John Wall last night gets thrown out. Yeah. Paul George says our chemistry's awful. And the Cavs look unbelievable.
Well, I just want to remind, because people, when I was tweeting about the positives and negatives last night about the Warriors, someone said, oh, I didn't see you tweeting when the Cavs only beat the Sixers by 1. Just a reminder to the audience. The last time Cleveland lost a basketball game, Kevin Durant was on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and none of us had seen Draymond Green's penis. It was a different world.
Very good point.
It was a different world.
Very good point.
That's how long it's been since the Cavs lost a game.
I think that's going to play on digital today.
I mean, it's the truth. Like, it was that the Cavs haven't lost a basketball game in 5 months. LeBron is coasting and averaging 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. Like, they are. Kevin Love finally has all that pressure off him that's been sitting on him since he went to Cleveland. If you watch the Cavs games, another team I've watched every game they've played this year, first few possessions of the game, they're running it through Kevin Love. Go get some buckets, big fella. Kyrie Irving, he was bad against the Sixers. Every other game he's been outstanding. LeBron is just playing chess master, waiting, getting his assists. And, I mean, the East is eating itself alive. While the Cavs just sit there undefeated coasting.
All right, it's election day.
Yeah.
And you think there's something about a coaching philosophy that fits?
Plays for the election. Okay. And so when I'm watching football, I wish more coaches had this philosophy. What does my opponent hope I do? I'm going to do the opposite. It's 4th and goal from the 1-inch line. The guys on the other sideline are saying, kick the field goal, please kick the field goal. That means if they want me to kick the field goal, I want to go for it. Figure out what my opponent wants me to do, I'm going to do the opposite. So I know there's people watching or listening right now that don't have a candidate, or they don't like either one, or they're just apathetic. They don't want to stand in line, so they're not going to vote. To those people, I ask you one favor. Think about the worst person you know. Who in your life that is in your orbit is the single worst person? Who do you think they want to win? Go vote for the other guy. Think about the worst person you know and who they want to win and vote for the other person.
That's a good point.
That's enough of a reason to get your ass out of bed, get off the couch, go cast your ballot. I flew back to Texas to vote. because I didn't have an absentee. I still have a home there. That's where I'm registered. I flew back to Texas to vote. Go vote, people. And if you don't know who to vote for, try to make someone bad unhappy. That would be my advice.
That was very good. You hear that, Goulet? That should be your new theme in life. Go the opposite. I never expect you to put in a full day's work, so go the opposite.
I gave you that license plate line. Isn't that enough for the day?
You're my bad. What would you think less of me if I had you heard me or something on my license plate?
I think that would be. Listen, I'm the wrong person to ask. I think it'd be awesome. My old radio show before I got hired by
what was it
FS1
called?
was called What's Right. And
that's clever.
And I tried to get.
You did.
I tried to get What's Right, but there was no way to make it work with the letter restriction, and it wouldn't make sense.
Well, for your California license, maybe you can try it out.
But that's not my radio show anymore.
So it was called What's Right.
What's Right with Nick Wright. Yeah, that's it.
You can have it be Get Right.
Get Right.
Yeah.
Get it right.
Get it right.
Yeah.
There are things you can play with my name. Unfortunately, with the name Nick Wright, there are also wordplay you can do with my first name. That was, tragedy from childhood that we don't have to get into.
Hey, listen, I'm Cowherd.
I don't get it.
You don't get it.
I got low self-esteem based on it. All right, good seeing you,
Thanks,
bud.
Colin.
This is the Herd Podcast.
We are ready now. We do it every week at this time. End of the show on Tuesday. It's called Hunch or Lunch. 7 NFL games. I've got to get 4 right within a point, or I buy lunch for the staff. Here we go.
Come on! Colin's got a hunch.
Tell me you weren't thinking this too.
If he's less than 50%,
that is nothing.
We'll get lunch. Woo-hoo! It's Hunch or Lunch in the Herd.
Here we go.
First one is Browns at Ravens.
Thursday night game.
Thursday night game. Browns at the Ravens. Do we know who the quarterback is yet?
For the Browns?
Yeah.
Kessler, right?
Should still be Kessler.
Yeah, it's Cody.
Yeah.
I think
they
that's what they're
chose
going
to
with,
start
Cody
him.
Kessler.
So it's the Browns at the Ravens.
Yes.
Baltimore minus 3.5.
It's nice that you agonize over that half. It's 10.
Oh, my gosh.
Baltimore's favored by 10.
The Browns are generally spotting about 10.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I think Baltimore coming up that Steelers win, going to go back down to earth. Wow.
Chiefs at Panthers.
I like Carolina, man. I'm on the Carolina bandwagon. I am. I think this point forward, they're a different team. They're starting to run the football. Cam's not turning it over. I think Carolina's going to go on a big winning streak.
Okay.
I'm going to take Carolina minus 2.5.
Nice. Minus 3.
All right.
Close. Vikings at Redskins.
Oh, God, that's tough. I don't know what. I like the Vikings, but they're a mess. Vikings. Now, Washington's not as good out of division. Washington's great in division. They're not as good out of division. I'll go Washington minus 2.5.
Nice. Also minus 3.
Okay.
Falcons at Eagles.
Oh, boy.
You look confused.
I'm not sure who's favored.
That's where you got to start.
Falcons. Now, what the weather's going to be starting to get cold now in the Northeast, and I think Vegas thinks about that.
Do you want to know the weather report?
What am I now? What am I? 2-1 or what? 2-1.
2-1.
Okay, I'm going to go. I don't know who's favored. I'm going to go.
It's only supposed to be like 57 degrees. It's not that bad.
Okay, Atlanta minus 2.
Philly minus 1.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
so
a rough one. That to me. That's I didn't know who'd be favored.
You're 2-2 now.
Okay.
49ers at Cardinals.
God, why don't you give me games I want to watch?
Because those are easier.
God, seriously. That's why I'd never be a movie critic. Because I'd want to go watch Argo like 12 times. I'd never want to watch the crappy movies.
Falcons-Eagles is a solid game.
Yeah, that was okay. So what's this one again?
49ers at Cardinals.
Arizona's off a bye, right? So Arizona should be favored. I'm going to say Arizona minus 5.5. What?
That's a weird one.
What?
13.5.
Oh, my God. That's a ridiculous number.
That's why it's in there.
Kaepernick is coming around, baby.
Okay, this next one is a good game.
Now I have to get this right.
And you have to get it right.
All right.
Seahawks at Patriots.
No, okay, so Seattle short week.
Patriots off a bye.
Good call. That's a good call. So that's the ultimate. New England's
This is the Sunday night game.
Okay, so New England's off a bye and Seattle's on a short week. I wouldn't be surprised if this is New England minus. Now wait a minute. That's hold on. New England minus.
What were you going to say?
6.5.
7.5. Nice.
All right. What were you going to say originally?
I was going to go 10, but I'm like, no. Pete Carroll, get in big television games. Seattle is usually very good on TV.
Okay, so for all the money, Cowboys at Steelers.
Okay, so there's a lot of psychology here. Because Pittsburgh is getting hammered for how they played. So I'm going to tell you right now, that number it better not be very big because Pittsburgh's going to play. Pittsburgh's had moments when they destroyed Kansas City. Pittsburgh's getting a lot of outside pressure right now. They'll play well. And they just played like crap against Baltimore. And Dallas is going, but I hate Pittsburgh's defense. Honestly, Dallas is the better team. The question becomes, how small of a number is it? I'm going to go Dallas minus 1.5.
Cowboys getting 2.5.
Pittsburgh's favored?
Wow.
I knew that would get you.
That's a good choice.
Pittsburgh is favored. Vegas is broke by Monday.
Be careful. You don't want to cost people a lot of money.
I get the Dallas Cowboys and points.
See, that's what scares me.
Okay, so time out. You know what that is?
As a Cowboys fan, that terrifies me.
Okay, that's the game. Every week there's a game. Every couple of weeks there's a game you're like, Vegas made a mistake. Pittsburgh's winning that game. Pittsburgh is winning that. Every time there's a game like this, you think Vegas is out of their gourd.
Because they know something? What do they know?
They just look at, I don't know what they know. Inside sources. I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, the fact that Dallas is a dog, a field goal dog, that doesn't even sound right.